Hi, my name's Ben Simonson. I've been a commercial artist for nearly 20 years. I started my career as a graphic designer, then an illustrator, art director, and lately I've been working as a concept artist for Disney and Warner Brothers. I am blessed to be able to work with extremely talented artists every single day. One of the ways that I get inspired is by talking with other artists and viewing their work. An artist that has inspired me for a long time is Cory Loftus. He worked as the character art director on Zootopia and is an amazing artist and all-around nice guy. He came out with a personal art book entitled Before I Forget, which is a visual journal of memories from his childhood. I love the book. Not only is it well illustrated, but it captures beautifully story moments from his life. As inspiration goes, I thought this was a great idea. So here you go. The illustration that I am working on here is a moment taken from my own childhood, and it's a story that I like to tell my kids. In my backyard, as a kid, we had an apple tree. The apples were delicious and the tree was great for climbing, so I would be up in the tree nearly every day eating apples. One day I had climbed up and mindlessly bit into an apple. I chewed and swallowed the bite, then looked down to take another when I saw sticking out of the apple half of a worm. I instantly realized that I had just eaten the other half. Well, for this piece, I wanted to record every stage, including me trying to figure out the character, composition, the values, and background design all at once. And normally I thumbnail things out first on paper, exploring a bunch of different ideas and camera angles and such. These thumbnails also help me to work out most of the major issues up front. But I decided to skip all those steps and just go for it. Now, skipping over steps in my process almost always spells certain doom for the painting. But I guess I like to do things the hard way, and you'll see that I run into problems later. As I'm sure you know by now, based on the title of this video is about mistakes. And actually, I didn't intend for the artwork to be a visual example of my poor choices, but here you go anyways. It seems obvious that you should look at your food before you put it in your mouth. But I had eaten hundreds of apples from this tree, and to my knowledge, I have never eaten a worm. This was a mistake on my part. Now, we often look at mistakes or failures as being bad and detrimental to our progress. Like a lot of you, when I came home with failing grades on my report cards, I got punished. And so it is with a lot of our failures and mistakes. If you make a mistake or fail to do a job right, you run the risk of being fired. So we've been trained to associate negative results with our mistakes and failures, which is why we try to avoid them. But I've learned from past experiences that mistakes are good, even needed, as long as we learn from them. I've made lots of mistakes throughout my life, and especially throughout my career. Okay, let's jump back to this painting. After struggling with the sketch, I then blocked things out pretty quickly, and this part is normal for my process. Not only do I try to block out the big shapes, I also attempt to get the values and hues. If I can get this part right, the rendering is just a matter of applying form and texture, edges and detail. I like to block out the shapes using the lasso tool in Photoshop. It's quick, and I know that I can adjust the shapes and edges afterwards, so I'm okay if it isn't accurate. Another benefit to building the shapes like this is that I can lock the transparency of each layer, so I can paint inside of that layer with big brushes and sweeping strokes. This helps me to stay loose, which I like. When I was just starting out in my career, I heard that advertising agencies hired artists. So one day I packed up all my original paintings into a large, oversized black portfolio case and headed downtown to get hired by one. I strolled into this amazing reception office and asked to see the art director. They asked if I had an appointment. No, I didn't. 10 minutes later, I found myself sitting across the desk from the studio's art director. Thinking about this now, it's clear I had no clue how things worked. I told him my single purpose for being there was to get a job. I laid out my portfolio case, which covered his entire desk. He awkwardly turned over my oversized artwork, flipping through my airbrush paintings of sports stars, hip-hop rappers, low-rider cars, and supermodels. He finished by saying sometimes they use artwork like this, and then he thanked me for coming in. I was totally beaming when I left. I was sure he would call me right away and offer me an amazing job with a corner office, but the call never came. So, what did I do wrong? Funny thing is, years later when I did get a job in advertising, I learned that the agency I went to was one of the top agencies in the United States. They held the Intel account, among other tech clients. I then realized I had gone in there selling them on artwork of supermodels when they created ads for selling computer chips. So besides making the mistake of selling the ad agency on supermodels and sports stars, I made another crucial error. My presentation sucked. it was not easy for the art director to review my portfolio. I had large, original pieces of art in all different styles and formats, including loose paper, canvases, and illustration boards. They weren't even in any particular order. He fumbled through them and they nearly knocked everything off of his desk. Art directors are busy people. A well-organized portfolio should be easy to flip through, neat, and most importantly applicable to them. It's vital that before you even put together a portfolio of your work, you do your research first. Find out about the company that you're going to show your work to, which is something I didn't do. Ask questions like, what do they do? What do they produce? What is their brand? Who is the art director? What is his work like? And so on. The answers to these questions will help dictate your portfolio and presentation. Okay, let's go back to the painting. You would think that by now, in this stage of the painting, after I've struggled through the drawing process and getting my shapes, values, and hues in line, it'd be smooth sailing. But that is not the case. If I would have followed my normal thumbnail process, I would have realized early on that my drawing wouldn't have lent itself well to rendering it with accurate form. I am more of a graphic illustrator anyways, but I got a little lost here trying to add too much form to my character. Because of this, it became apparent that my drawing wasn't very good. So I spent the majority of my time on this painting trying to fix that problem, and it took a long time. As a kid, I was a huge fan of basketball, and I grew up in what I believe to be the golden age of the NBA. This was when Michael Jordan reigned as king and he had plenty of competition for the throne. When you think of Michael Jordan, failure and mistakes aren't the first things to come to mind. In fact, he's still hailed as the greatest basketball player ever. Even so, he has a quote that has helped to give me perspective in my career and one that I find inspiring. And it says, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. That's cool. So what have I learned from my own mistakes? First off, always look at what you were eating. Second, mistakes, although painful or embarrassing at the time, are good experiences as long as we learn from them and make changes. Number 3, before talking to a potential client or employer, I need to do my research. Find out about them and who I will be talking to. Number 4, I need to tailor my portfolio for their needs. Number 5, expect to fail and make mistakes. This last one is something that I've only recently employed and I love it. It takes all the pressure to perform off of my shoulders. If I am not afraid to fail, I can confidently try new things. This is something that I picked up over the years from working with Pixar. Failure and mistakes are built into their process for making animated films. They plan on it and they embrace it because they know it will help them find the right solution in the end. Think about it. If you don't know what's wrong, you can't make changes to correct it and ultimately make it better. So my advice, learn that life is all about making mistakes. And it's how we grow and learn from those mistakes that will determine how successful we become.